Today with me is Jamie Barnett. Hello, Jamie.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm not bad, just a wee bit busy.
Fair enough. So, Jamie, please tell us about yourself.
So I've turned 17 just 2 weeks ago, and I'm currently midway through my hires. I've already done one, and I've got 4 coming up.
4 coming up. So, 16. Wait, was it 16 or 17?
I'm 17 just
17.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
2 weeks ago. Ooh, nearly an adult.
Yeah.
And exams. Fun.
Not at all. I've got 4 coming up, and then 3 of them are within 3 days of each other, so it's really full on.
So, wait. So you've got 3 of them within each other?
Yeah, like day after each other.
So
Yeah.
exam, tomorrow, next one, tomorrow,
Yeah.
next one. That is
Crazy.
evil.
Mm.
The SQ does not like you.
Not at all. Not at all.
So, how do you... It sounds like you're under a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, so...
So what I do just to relieve that a wee bit is go out walks with like my dogs, and I also play a lot of football, to be honest. Like that's my main reason, my main source of reducing stress.
So, do you play in a club, or do you...
So yeah, I play for my school club, and I play for my club in the west of Scotland, and they're called Winning Rangers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I joined them just over a year ago.
So you're a Rangers fan?
Well, no, they're not actually. That's just the name of their club. They're nothing to do with like the Glasgow club. No. But they're in the west of Scotland. That's just a name.
Fair enough. And talking a little bit about football, do you watch football in your free time, or?
Yeah, I watch a lot of football. Like in Glasgow, I'm a Rangers fan, like a big Rangers fan, and I tried to go to quite a few of their games, and honestly, the atmosphere there is unbelievable. I can't believe how good it is. Like I've been to games abroad as well, like even England as well. I've gone to games in Spain. Like I went to a game in Mallorca. Don't get me wrong, the atmosphere was really good, but it's got nothing on Glasgow. It's unbelievable.
So, what you're saying is that in live football, just watching a game live is completely different, but it's a completely different experience when you experience like in Glasgow.
Yeah, it's completely different. Like, there's so much more intense than in Glasgow than it is in like Spain, for example. Like, don't get me wrong, like the quality in Spain is probably higher. Like, you've got much more well-known teams like Barcelona, Real Madrid, but in Scotland, the atmosphere is just completely like a new level.
So
like, and like if one of the teams score, you can kind of feel the stadium like rock. Like you can. I've never experienced like atmosphere like that before anywhere. It's crazy.
It's like an earthquake happening, like when a goal happens. I'm just curious what's happening, like people that are outside just walking past.
People that live nearby as well, they can't relax. If there's a game on, then
if there's a game on, the whole area is like in the mood for football.
Exactly.
And so you watch a lot of football? You play a lot of football?
Yeah, so I train usually Monday with school, Wednesday with my club in Winning, Friday with Winning, and then I've got a game on Sunday with Winning, and sometimes I've got a game midweek with my school. So it's a really full on week.
4 to 5 times a week football.
Yeah.
That's a little bit mad.
Yeah, it's really, in my opinion, really good source of exercise. Really, like it keeps me fit. Like instead of doing nothing. Plus the dog walks as well.
Exactly.
Because being outside, especially during the times of your exams, is like really kind of gets you in the right frame of mind to do better with like studying, because your mind's more clear if you go outside, and then just come back inside, you're just ready to like start again.
Exactly. So you use football as a good coping strategy with all your exams.
Plus just enjoyment as well, just in general. Like I started when I was 5, and like when you're that age, you just tend to try out a lot of new things. But as soon as I played football, I just knew that was the path I wanted to go down. And 12 years later, I'm still loving it. Fair
enough. And talking about football, have you seen any changes in the last like 5 years in football?
Well, definitely lockdowns had an effect, and like during when it was like really bad. Football will be played. Well, no, when at its worst, football just got completely cancelled. Like there was like a few months where nothing was going on, and then it's when restrictions started to ease. The players were allowed to play, but there was no fans allowed. So they were just playing in empty stadiums, which completely took the life out of football, because if you score, there's not really any atmosphere. It's only like the players, the substitutes, and the manager celebrating. But that's why I think fans make football, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, truly, if you we saw World Cup last minute.
Yeah.
And end squad. I think the world goes insane.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, honestly, it's had such a dramatic effect globally. Like, obviously, some countries have kind of more easy restrictions than others. So fans were allowed back in stadiums in some countries quicker than others. But it's good now that every stadium is now back to full capacity. It's completely changed it.
Do you think, talking a little bit, something what I need to be honest, I'm not the biggest football fan anymore. I know I'm probably a traitor for Germany right now saying that. But do you think when I was heard that football was back on, I was a little bit worried that because it feels like COVID, at football, it was just a super spread event.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it was still a huge risk, even nowadays. But it's just you can't keep them away from football forever, because I don't think it's ever going to go away, to be honest. I think it's just going to become it's going to be something not like a common cold, but I think everyone's going to get it at one point, and they're going to build immunity to it. So there's no point in just keeping everyone at home all the time when they want to go out and enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
Not just football, just in general. If they want to go on holidays, for example, they want to enjoy themselves still.
Exactly. You want to live your life, and living at home in your little bedroom or your flat or your house, if you're lucky.
It's just even for people that are turning a new chapter in their life, people going to universities, it just takes away the whole experience. Just you staying in your flat or wherever you stay, it's just, that's why I just feel people should just go out now and just enjoy.
And you think football is an experience you should
Definitely.
try?
Definitely.
Or
No, yeah, I think football is a way that brings people closer together. When, for example, England or Scotland are playing in the Euros, what happened last year?
I remember.
Everyone kind of came as one. Especially more England fans, because they got to the finals. So everyone kind of came as one, and that kind of bonded people closer, just solely from football. So that's another reason why I also love it.
You know what I found more funny is everyone during the Euro finals in what year was it?
Last year, so it's 2021.
2021.
It was meant to be 2020, but
yeah, COVID happened. Yeah. So what I found quite funny, that whole of Europe decided we're rooting for Italy except England.
Yeah. It's so weird. It's weird because I'm just not part of the European Union, and I think it's just how it's been for the past years they've been in it. I don't think they can really change it, to be honest.
Yeah. And talking about saying football unites people, I always felt football was more tribalism than anything else. What would you say to that?
I think so. When the national team's playing, everyone's closer, but there's a lot of conflict amongst clubs, especially in Glasgow with Celtic and Rangers, and Manchester. There's two Manchester teams. Liverpool, you've got Liverpool and Everton. So there is going to be conflicts everywhere, and that's kind of more for club football. But as soon as national team football comes on, everyone just kind of joins together and just enjoys it.
So do you think that let's just say international football unites more people than your local football? Can I say that? Or
yeah, well, obviously you're still going to get relationships with not as many people, because there's so many clubs, so there's still going to be conflict, but yeah, definitely international gets a lot more people closer than club football.
That's a fair enough statement. And you mentioned that you're a Rangers fan, and talking a little bit about Rangers and Celtic, because their influence is so strong that even in my hometown, when I'm talking about Glasgow and people who know their football talk about, Rangers and Celtic, who do you support?
Honestly, it's one of, if not the most captivated derby in the world. It's such from an atmosphere perspective, I think it's up there. There's some in Argentina as well that kind of match that as well, but honestly, some of the things you see in the Glasgow, like in the Old Firm, which is Rangers v Celtic, is unbelievable. Like the fans have a proper hatred towards each other. Like, yeah, I don't blame everyone like globally how they know, because they know what the Old Firm is. Like, it's so well known for how fierce it is, and yeah, the quality isn't as high as I said earlier with like the Spanish football, like your German football, but it's so like fierce. Like the atmosphere is just so intense.
So, do you think this is a good thing? This, as you said, it is hatred to one another.
It from an outside, from a neutral's perspective, because they'll be fighting for it more because they want to like one up like their fiercest rivals. So obviously, like if you're a Rangers fan and Celtic win, like you're gonna feel heartbroken. But it's the complete opposite. They win, like you're gonna feel unbelievable like the next week, and you're obviously going to get those bragging rights as well. But like as a neutral, it's just really good to watch with how fierce and like intense the derby is.
I mean, a good rivalry pushes you to your best.
And it makes you play better as well, because some people kind of perform better under pressure.
I'm not one of them. Don't know how you are, but I am a nervous wreck. So Rangers and Celtic. How about let's talk about international football, because we have seen quite a lot football being a lot more involved in political reasons, you could say.
Yeah, obviously with like what's happened with Russia, they've been taken out of a lot of competitions. So they've been, so the World Cup that's coming up in the December time, they've been taken out of that due to like the wars with Ukraine. And to be honest, I agree with that. And also the Chelsea owner, Roman Abramovich, he's been rescinded his ownership of Chelsea because he has a relation with Vladimir Putin. So all his assets just got stripped, and he's now in Russia and has no affiliation with Chelsea.
So you think this is a good action?
I think it is. And the Premier League, which is the league they play in, they took disciplinary actions against Chelsea with like giving them transfer bans and like reducing, like they weren't allowed to spend money on anything pretty much due to the relationship Abramovich had with Vladimir Putin. And I think it's more Abramovich. I think once he's gone, I think that just kind of resolves the issue. I think, yeah, definitely right for him to get rescinded his ownership, but I think Chelsea should just, the club he owned, should just run normally as it does now.
Yeah, I think we've got this Russian influence gone, and I think in your words you said it was rightful so.
Yeah.
And do you think it is wrong to punish these athletes that have nothing to do, that represent this country, or what's your general thought on that?
They've got nothing to do with the relationship Roman Abramovich has with Vladimir Putin, so I think that no action should be taken against them. Definitely get rid of the owner, but I think just allow a new owner to take over Chelsea, just completely start fresh with like, and I have nothing against the players, just make them run as they did.
What do you think about Russian teams, or the international Russian team? They have, I don't think they started a war.
No, they didn't, but I think it's just, he started like this big conflict. I don't think it'd be fully ethical from like FIFA, the ones that run the World Cup, to allow them to compete, because I think it would cause a bit of an uproar, especially with the Ukrainians, and like a lot of people around the world would feel quite uncomfortable with them competing. Yes,
I completely understand it. Just, I agree with you. First of all, I think it's good that football is stepping up and doing the morally right thing, but it's still quite hard to see that we need to come to those measures in the 21st century.
Yeah, I know. I thought it would all just kind of be resolved, but
yeah, well, it is what it is. But talking a little bit about FIFA, FIFA has been like, there's been a lot of controversy related to like World Cup and like that.
Yeah, well, I think there's, from a qualifying perspective, I think, in my opinion, some teams get in easier than others, but that's just from whereabout they lie in the world. So like Scotland, they have to get through European teams to get into the World Cup. Like the number of best European teams get into the World Cup, but I think the quality in Europe is at a higher quality as the African continent. So like teams in there, like like Nigeria, who don't get me wrong are a good team, but they have much less competition than what Scotland have with like England, Belgium, Germany.
Yeah. Do you think it's maybe like something related to resources? Like, for example, let's say Germany has a lot more resources than, let's say, I don't know what's a good African team because.
Yeah, like the top ones like Senegal, because they won. There was an African competition a couple months ago, and Senegal beat Egypt in the final to win that. So yeah, they are a very good team, but it's a lot easier for them to get into the World Cup than the likes of Wales or Scotland.
Yeah, and what do you think of? What's your thoughts and opinions on FIFA's corruption scandals that they had quite a lot?
I think it was kind of a past issue. Like I think it's been resolved now. Like I don't think it's much of an issue anymore. I think it's kind of been resolved. Like obviously other headlines have overtaken that now with like Russia.
Yes, of course.
And I think their reputation's kind of boosted up a wee bit with the disciplinary actions they've taken with taking Russia out of the World Cup. So I think it's kind of resolved now, and FIFA now have a slightly more positive image.
Do you think that's a good thing, or do you think we should hold them more accountable?
I think honestly we should just for Russia being taken out. I think we can kind of forgive them, like because they've kind of made it fair for everyone. Like they've kind of settled, made peace across all countries, because there would have been a massive, as I said earlier, a massive uproar if Russia got through to the World Cup, especially amongst the Ukrainians, as I said as well. So I think that they've kind of taken the ethical route down and like the responsible route to taking Russia out.
Yeah, just talking about. So I see you're struggling here a little bit. Don't worry, it's a hot topic, and I don't expect you to understand it. I barely understand it myself, and I'm a little bit older, tiny bit older than you. But so football, I think John Oliver. Do you know who he is? Last week tonight. No,
I don't know who that is.
Oh, it's just a host, and he did one. He said a line which I think works really well in football, is that football is our religion.
Yeah, honestly, people give up so much time to go watch their team play football. Like there's people that travel, like with like Rangers in this European competition which they're playing tonight. They've gone to Germany, to Portugal, and back to Germany last week, and like there's fans out there that just follow them everywhere, no matter where they go. Wow. And if they win tonight, then they go to Sevilla. So don't get me wrong, there'll be hundreds of thousands of Rangers fans going there because of the affinity they have towards the team.
It sounds like football is really good for tourism too.
Yeah, because there's some stadiums in the world, like I think 2 really good stadiums are in Spain. So Barcelona, the Camp Nou, and the Real Madrid stadium, the Santiago Bernabeu. They're like tourist sites. Like people would go and just visit them. Like even if you don't have that much of a connection towards football, they'll still like a really like beautiful stadium. Like it's really nice to see. So yeah, tourism does have a bit to play in within it as well.
It's really a cultural center too. And would you say that football is a part of the identity of a nation?
Yeah, I do think so. Like England's main sport's football. Like England have a really good reputation for football. Like the quality they have is like top. Like there's always, for the past few years, there's nearly been an English team in a final of a European competition, like nearly every time, and it's really good to get a good reputation worldwide. Because if people look at England, one of the first things they'll think about is such high quality football that
it is the home of football after all, although maybe not at the peak of football, I think.
No, so like one name, I'm not sure you know him, Johan Cruyff. He was in like the 1970s. He completely regenerated football, like a different style of play, like much more like nice to watch, like a lot of like more passing, sharp movements, and he kind of regenerated football. And ever since then, there's been more managers nowadays that have kind of followed the legacy of the way he wanted football to be played. So he's kind of changed the whole like way the sport's been played.
So I would think that after so many, like, I don't know, when did football start?
Oh, ages ago, like there's been a lot of rules that have changed throughout the years, but I can't tell you an exact date when it started, but like a lot of like the big teams formed in like the 1800s, maybe like late 1800s, so that's kind of when it started getting a lot more popular.
Yeah, so in the 1800s, I would assume football would be the same, strategies would be the same. Do you think football is maybe a little bit stalemated, or?
No, what do you mean by like stalemated? Like,
just what do I mean is that after nearly two centuries of football, are we just seeing the same over and over again?
From a format perspective, yeah, but there's a lot, like you can never, like especially like recent times, you can never predict who gets through to a final. Like there's some teams, like for example this year, a team called Villarreal, completely against it, and they got to the semi-finals of the Champions League, which is like the biggest club European competition, and they completely defied all the odds, beating like one of the favourites in Bayern Munich, like the best team in Germany, and like one of the best teams in Italy in Juventus. So, and that happens in the Champions League, that there's these fairy tale runs with like teams that are completely against the odds going nearly all the way. So that's obviously the format's the same, but you can never predict what's going to happen.
I think that's a good analysis. Sports can create those myths, those stories that...
And like, you get these moments where you're like, your hands are on your head, you're like, I can't believe that's happened. Like, it happens so often, especially in this competition.
Yeah, I think the just what can happen in football, the unknown, the excitement, the thrill of watching it is just something.
It just makes you like just feel like nothing else matters. Just watching the football just makes you just feel like nothing else matters in that moment of time. Just you're so intrigued into it because anything could happen. Like anything really exciting could happen at any moment.
Yeah, and talking about football, what I want to talk to you about is football. Millions of people watch them, or like billions, pretty much World Cup.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah.
But do you think it is worth how much the football players get paid compared to nurses or people that pretty much kept the country running while we were at home?
Yeah, that has been a bit of a controversial topic. I do agree that like your doctors and nurses should get paid around about what footballers should be getting paid. But don't get me wrong, like there's a lot in which footballers get like with their club, but there's also payments aside from it, like sponsorships. But I think it is a bit much. So there's like Messi, he was on like 700,000-800,000 euros a week. Or like Ronaldo, like all those people. Yeah, don't get me. They're the best in the business. They're the best
in the world.
So they should be getting like a higher wage than everyone else. But I think that's a wee bit ridiculous.
Yeah. I think especially, the NHS is always struggling.
Yeah.
it's always a joke on the staff, on the funded. What's the other one? On the something on the I don't know. On the equipped.
Yeah.
Something like that. So it's always crazy to see. But again, the counter argument is they make so much joy to people. They help you in your exams. They bring so much joy, passion, interest, tourism.
And I think a lot of footballers realise that they get paid a ridiculous wage, and they give quite a lot of it to charities, and like they donate quite a lot. So there's a lot of like players that do that, which is really nice. But I think they kind of understand how much money they get in comparison to people that probably deserve a higher wage. So
yeah,
they kind of decide to donate quite a bit of their money.
Yeah. Also, there has been quite a football. We talked about how football is involved in more politics. It's been a lot of them have been involved in like anti-race, red card to racism. I think that was one.
So one of the actions they took was before the game starts, both teams take a knee to support the Black Lives Matter movement, and there's people that don't do it for their own reason, like because a lot of people have like different opinions, but like the big companies such as like the Premier League, like they do these things to try and raise awareness because of how captivated their the league is, like how many people watch it, and that, as you said, that might be a reason why the players get paid quite a bit more, because a lot of people are a lot more intrigued in it, and like it takes away their problems, like for example in my scenario with my exams.
Yeah, so do you think that football players have a responsibility to their audience to act and respond in a way to be a guide, or like how?
Yeah, because like these footballers, they're so well known, like they're globally known, and they're a lot of people's role models, so they kind of need to be quite cautious on how they act, because like people might act like the way they act, and if they do something irresponsible, then people might lead on to that and like act the way that they do, and it can make them like a worse person just due to one mistake of an action of a player. So they need to be like really careful, like a lot.
Yeah, I think if we're talking a little bit about staying a little bit more in racism in that area and being more, I think when England was playing Hungary.
Oh yeah, I think it was Bulgaria, and there was an obscene amount of racism from like, and there was also the captain, I think it was Harry Kane at the time, was like wanted to walk the players off the pitch because he feels like obviously no one deserves to go through like that type of like just because of the colour of their skin. So he was very, very tempted to walk the players off the pitch as a stand against it. Think like we can't play through this, it's not right. So he wanted to kind of make a stand, not just in that game, but around the world, because there'll be a lot of people watching because of how well known the players are.
Exactly.
And that will kind of give everyone like a reality, like to what's happening, and they could kind of copy what they do, and like that will encourage people to stand against racism due to like the action of what one team does. Yeah. It's like such like a butterfly effect. Like if it happens one place, it'll just start expanding until like goes globally, and like how the intolerance of racism needs to like go up a lot more, and by the actions of these, it would just have an effect globally.
So, footballers should be role models. We should be able to look up to them. They should be leaders. They should be an example what to be a good person. Do you think the fans represent it because they seem more like, if I think of German, I think of drunk fathers.
Yeah.
That are emotionally very much invested into the game.
Yeah, of course. Like honestly, there's people there that like are so emotionally attached to football that they come home and they're like. They might cause conflict amongst their family if their team loses. Like honestly, that's how emotionally attached people get to football, and it's just the way it is. That's just how football's become such a name. Like people get so emotionally attached that it causes arguments, and that's just, I don't see it changing.
Just a question now that we're coming a little bit to our end. What do you think like if you could put football in like simplify it down to the most basic thing, and could you describe in 3 words?
Like passion, excitement, and enjoyment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have any advice for people that go through a lot of exams because you're probably a little bit stressed out?
I think, as I said earlier, going outside, because going a walk, even playing football, as I said earlier, I think it just clears your mind completely. So you could come back into your house, go back to your books with a completely fresh, open mind, just ready to start again.
So going on a walk, doing some sports.
Yeah. And just like talking to your friends as well.
Talking to your friends.
And not everything has to be about school. Like that's just the best way to go about it, to be honest.
Well, Jamie, thank you very much for having me today.
It's
been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
And that's us. Thank you very much for listening to SDS. New episodes out every week. If you're interested in coming on the podcast, message us on Instagram. This would not have been possible without Mona Ricky and Connor Hutchison, with a big thanks going to Tanashi Takidi and Ariana Agnifuri. Hope you join us for next week. Cheers!